The reason your mind feels full of vague, overwhelming ideas isn't a lack of knowledge, it's a lack of structural processing. We'll show you the scientific system that turns mental fog into instant, crystal-clear certainty.
So, let's just dive right in, because that opening line, that holds the entire secret. See, most of us think clarity is something we just find, like a sudden aha moment after hours of thinking. But the big paradox we're going to tear down today is this. Certainty is not something you wait for, it is a state you actively engineer. It's a structural process, not an emotional one. So we're going to treat your mental fog not as some personal failing, but as a system error, one we can debug with a very precise scientific protocol.
And here's our roadmap for doing just that. First, we're going to diagnose the real science behind that mental fog. Then, I'm going to hand you the three-phase clarity system that completely solves it. After that, we'll dig into the neuroscience that proves why it's so powerful. And then, we'll get super practical with an instant protocol you can use the second this is over. And finally, we'll lock in the master key to engineering your focus for good.
Okay, let's start by putting on our lab coats and diagnosing this problem with some clinical precision. Because to solve mental fog, you first have to understand what it actually is on a cognitive level. It's not just a feeling, you guys. It's a measurable state of cognitive inefficiency.
So what is the real source of that feeling? You know what I'm talking about. That state of decision paralysis where you've got a million things to do, but you can't seem to start a single one of them. It feels like this invisible wall just blocking your focus and draining your energy before you've even started. Well, the answer isn't that you're lazy or unmotivated. The answer is a specific cognitive condition.
And that condition is called ambiguity overload. It's exactly what it sounds like. Your brain is just flooded with vague, undefined inputs. Think about those big anxieties we all have. Get in shape, fix my finances, deal with that huge work project. Because these ideas have no clear next step, your brain can't file them away. So instead, they just clog up your working memory, which is kind of like your brain's RAM, and they fuel this endless cycle of anxious thinking. This whole process is incredibly draining, and it just depletes the resources of your prefrontal cortex, which is the CEO of your brain responsible for focus and decision-making.
And this chart, well, it shows the staggering cognitive cost. In a state of high ambiguity, up to 80% of your brain's processing power is wasted just trying to manage the chaos. That leaves you with only 20% for actually getting things done. But look at that shift. When you operate with high definition, you get all that energy back. You have 95% of your brain's resources ready for focused execution. So the key takeaway here is simple. The goal isn't to work harder. It's to eliminate ambiguity so your brain can finally work smarter.
Okay, so now that we've diagnosed the problem as a structural one, ambiguity overload, we can introduce the engineered solution. And I want to be clear, this isn't about positive thinking or just trying harder. This is a system. It's a machine for creating clarity.
The Clarity Acceleration System has three very distinct phases, and each one is designed to systematically just dismantle ambiguity. First, we capture and externalize every single thought to get it out of your head. Second, we run those thoughts through something I call the forced binary test. It's a filter that just mercilessly eliminates vagueness. And third, we establish the certainty output lock, which creates a totally frictionless path to action. Let's break each one of these down.
Phase 1 is the 5-minute mind dump. And this part is absolutely non-negotiable. For 5 minutes, just 5, you aggressively offload every thought, every worry, every to-do, get it all down on a page. The key here is zero processing. Don't organize it, don't judge it. The only goal is to externalize the chaos. This single act immediately frees up your brain's working memory. It's like a system reboot.
Phase 2 is the filter. And honestly, this is the heart of the entire system, the forced binary test. You take each item from your mind dump and run it through a series of simple yes or no questions. Is this something I can take action on? Is it in my control? Can I do it in under 2 minutes? It's this rapid-fire process that forces a vague concept into a concrete reality, stripping away all the ambiguity until all you're left with is a clearly defined task. And finally, phase 3 is the lock. Once you have that crystal clear action, you lock it in with what psychologists call an implementation intention. It's just a simple if-then plan. So instead of, I'll call the client, you say, if it is 9 a.m., then I will dial the client's number. This pre-decision removes all the friction, and it makes actually doing the thing almost automatic.
Okay, so we've covered the what. Now let's get into the why. This system might feel simple, but it works because it's directly targeting those cognitive bottlenecks we talked about earlier. This isn't just a productivity hack, it's a full-on neurological intervention.
I mean, just look at this contrast. On the left, that's your mind in the fog. Your working memory is overloaded, your amygdala, your brain's alarm setter is firing off, and your executive function is just gone. But on the right, that's your mind with the system. Working memory is free, your amygdala is calm, execution is low friction, and you've conserved all that energy for deep, meaningful work. It is a complete transformation of your cognitive state.
So how exactly does the system engineer clarity? Well, there are 3 scientific principles at play here. First, that mind dump triggers something called the Zeigarnik Effect. It's the psychological principle that our brains stay fixated on unfinished tasks. By writing them down, you give your brain permission to let go, which instantly frees up mental space. Second, by defining those vague anxieties, you neutralize the endless rumination. Your brain's alarm system calms right down when a huge fear like fix my finances becomes a tiny concrete step like open my banking app. And third, that if-then plan eliminates the friction of just getting started, which, let's be honest, is the main cause of procrastination for most of us.
All right, let's shift from the theoretical to the practical. This is the part where you really get your hands dirty. We are now moving into the exact step-by-step protocol you can use immediately, like today, to go from total chaos to crystal clarity.
So here it is again, but this time framed as a direct protocol. Step 1. Perform the 5-minute mind dump. No sorting, no judging, just a raw data transfer from your brain to the page. Step 2. Execute the forced binary test drill on every single item. This is a rapid, systematic process. And step 3, for your highest priority action, immediately define the certainty output lock. This is not a set of friendly guidelines. It's a strict protocol. Follow it exactly.
Let's actually see this test in action. So you take a vague input like, get finances in order. Okay, is it an action? Yes. Do I have control? Yes. Is it a quick task or a bigger project? Definitely a project. So the certainty output becomes open my banking app and categorize the last 3 transactions. See that? We just turned a huge, stressful idea into a tiny, manageable action. Next, worry about the presentation. Action or info? Well, that's just info, it's a feeling. Do I have control over the worry itself? Not really. So we acknowledge it and we discard it. Finally, clean up my inbox. Action? Yes. Control? Yes. 2-minute task? Absolutely. So the certainty output is reply to the top email. You can literally see how the system forces clarity.
And that final step, the certainty output lock, is so crucial. It leverages a ridiculously powerful psychological tool called an implementation intention. I mean, decades of research show that by defining your intention in this simple if-then format, if this specific cue happens, then I will perform this specific action, you dramatically, and I mean dramatically, increase your odds of follow-through. You're basically preloading the decision into your subconscious, so when the time comes, you don't have to think, you just execute. At 9 a.m., I will open the client's file. It's a command, not a suggestion.
Okay, we've covered the problem, the system, the science behind it, and the protocol to make it happen. So, let's synthesize all of this down into one final, powerful takeaway. How do you actually move forward from here and truly engineer your focus? It all comes down to this single sentence. The speed of your clarity is not dependent on how smart you are or the strength of your willpower. It is dependent on the rigor of your system. Certainty and focus are not character traits you're born with. They are the output of a well-designed process. When the process is rigorous, the clarity is instant.
So the question I'm going to leave you with is this. Are you ready to stop wrestling with your own mind, to stop fighting the fog, and instead to become the engineer of your own focus? Because the tools are right here, in your hands.
So let's do one final recap of this masterclass. Clarity acceleration solves the core problem of mental fog and decision paralysis. This matters because it gives you a systematic way to conserve your executive function and create instant certainty. The framework is simple. The mind dump gets thoughts out of your head, and the forced binary test defines them. And the psychology is powerful. It frees up your working memory and neutralizes the anxiety that's been draining your cognitive resources. Always remember, productivity isn't about doing more. It's about mastering systems that make focus effortless.